Okay, on to lesson 5, using some circle properties. Okay, you should know both of these from GCSE. If you have a tangent to a circle, it must be perpendicular to the radius. If you have a chord, then the perpendicular bisector, the line that cuts it in half at 90 degrees, must pass through the centre of the circle. And we're going to be using both of those properties in order to solve some problems in the next few examples. So example 10, it says that the circle with equation x minus 2 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 100. We need to show that 10, 0 lies on the circle, and then find an equation tangent to the circle at that point 10, 0, and it gives us the particular form to show our answering. Well, first, if we work out the centre of this circle, it's going to be 2, 6, and it's going to have a radius of 10, because that's A, that's B, r squared, so r is 10. So let's just do a very, very quick diagram. So the centre of the circle is 2, 6, and we want to show the point 10, 0, somewhere down here, say, lies on the circle, and then we need to work out the equation of the tangent line, which I'll call out. Okay, and that will be the radius, and we know that must be perpendicular. So in order to work out the equation of this line, I'm going to need to use the formula y minus y1 is m bracket x minus x1. I've got x1 and y1. I just need to work out the gradient, and it's perpendicular to the gradient of the radius. I'm getting ahead of myself there. I first need to show this does lie on the line, which was similar to the last lesson. All we need to do is substitute in 10 for x, 0 for y, and show that the answer to this part of the equation is 100. If it is, it lies on the circle. So 10, 0. So 10 take 2 squared, and make sure you show all the working because you actually know what the answer is going to be. 0 take 6 squared, so that's 8 squared, plus minus 6 squared, which is 64, plus 36, which is 100. Put a big tick to show that means that you know 10 naught lies on the line. Okay, now going back to this problem. What I need to do is to work out the gradient of this line here. So I need to work out the gradient first of the line where the radius meets the line L. Well, to go from 10 to 6, I'm going 8 across. To go from 6 to 0, I'm going 6 down. So the gradient is going to be up divided by to the right. So that's minus 6 divided by 8, which is minus 3/4. Meaning the gradient of my line L, flip it and change sign, negative reciprocal, is positive 4/3. So use the equation y minus y1 equals m bracket x minus x1. y1 is here, x1 is here, the point on the line. Y minus 0 equals the gradient, which is 4/3, x minus 10. So I'm going to bring the 3 over as times and expand the bracket by 4, giving me 3y equals 4x minus 40. And the form we wanted to leave it in was ax plus by plus c0. So let's bring the 3y over, plonk it in the middle, so that way your 4x is positive. Your 4x minus 3y minus 40 equals 0. Example 11. So we've got a circle with the equation x take away 5 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 10. So that has centre 5 minus 3 and radius not 10, though be careful, root 10. I don't ever need that, but I could work it out as we go along. We've got a line L is tangent to the circle and has gradient minus 3. Find 2 possible equations for the line. Okay, so if you imagine we've got the circle with centre 5 minus 3. We've got a line tangent to that circle with a gradient of minus 3. It's quite a steep negative line, so it could be here, or it could be here. both of them have a gradient of -3. Okay, so I need to work out the equations of both these lines. I've got their gradient, but I need to work out a point on that line, which will be the endpoints of the diameter of the circle. So what I'm going to do here then is work out, well, I know that I can work out the equation of this line here because I know a point on that line and I know the gradient of that line, the diameter, is going to be a third. The reason being it's perpendicular to this and this, so to work out the gradient of the perpendicular line, you flip it and change sign. So it's positive and becomes a third. So gradient of that line is 1/3. So using y minus y1 is then brackets x minus x1, y plus 3, because y is -3, equals a third x minus 5, giving me y plus 3 is a third x, take away 5/3. And if I bring the -3 over, y equals a third x minus, it's minus 5/3 minus 9, which is -3, which is minus 9/3, which is minus 14/3. Okay, well that still doesn't help. Well, it does help, but it doesn't solve the problem. So I've got the equation of this line here, and I've got the equation of the circle here. Now if I equate those, or solve them simultaneously, that will give me the two accordance of the two endpoints. Which is quite a tricky substitution because of these fractions. Anyway, so we get x, take away 5 squared, plus a third x, take away 14/3, which is y, add 3, which is add 9/3. So actually going to go back to this, equals 10. So let's just expand that. Let's simplify this bit first. X take away 5 squared, plus a third x, take away 5/3 squared equals 10. And now let's expand each of them. So I've got x squared, take away 10x plus 25, plus, this one's a bit more difficult to do, we're going to have a 9th x squared. So I'm going to need to do times those together. 5/9 minus 10/9 x plus 25/9 equals 10. Now, I've got to times everything at this stage by 9 because I'm not particularly loving all these 9ths. 9x squared minus 90x plus 225 plus x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 90. Don't forget to times this one by 9. Now let's rearrange it into the standard form for a quadratic. So I'm going to have 10x squared minus 90x minus 10x minus 100x. 225, 250, take away 90 is 160. Divide everything by 10. And then if we factorise that, so what's it going to be? Minus 8 and minus 2, giving me solutions x equals 8, x equal 2. Work out the y values. It's going to be a third of x minus 14/3. So that's going to be 8. 8/3 take away 14/3 is minus 6/3, which is minus 2. 2/3 take away 14/3 is minus 12/3, which is minus 4. Okay, we're still not finished there though, because what we wanted was the equation of the two equations of these lines. So this one is going to be 2 minus 4. This one is going to be 8 minus 2. So Diagram's a bit monkey, but never mind. So if I use the formula y minus y1 equals m brackets x minus x1, work out line L1 first. So that's going to be this one here. So y plus 2 equals minus 3. The gradient of this line is minus 3. X minus 8. Just checking the question, it wants it in the form y equals mx plus c. So y plus 2 is minus 3x plus 24. Y equals minus 3x plus 22. Onto L2, using the same equation. Y plus 6 equals minus 3, because both of them obviously have a gradient of minus 3. X minus 2. Expand the brackets. And that should be a 4. The y equals 4, put 6 for some strange reason. So taking the 4 across, we get y equals minus 3x plus 2 as the second solution. It's quite a difficult question now. On to the last example. Example 12. Right, we've got a diagram this time, so it's circle. We've got a chord. We know the endpoints of the chord are minus 7 minus 1 and 3 minus 5 where it hits the circle. We've got the perpendicular bisector, which we know passes through the centre of the circle. This is line L1 or L. And what we need to do is firstly find an equation for this line here, and then we need to find the centre of the circle. Well, to work out the equation of this line here, I'm going to again use y minus y1 as m brackets x minus x1. So I'm going to need a point on the line, just going to the midpoint of these 2 points, and I'm going to need to work out the gradient of this line. Now we know that the chord and the diameter or radius is going to be perpendicular. It's perpendicular bisector, passing in the centre. So if we can work out the gradient of this line and then do the negative reciprocal to work out the gradient of this line. So firstly, let's work out the centre of the chord, which is called M. So if we average the x coordinates, average the y coordinates, so that is going to be minus 4, minus 2, minus 6, minus 3. The radius, so the gradient of this line, we're going from minus 7 to 3, which is 4, oh no, it's 10 across. We're going from minus 1 to minus 5, which is 4 down. So the gradient is going to be up divided by across, which is going to be minus 4 over 10, minus 2/5. So the gradient of line L1 is the negative reciprocal, so it becomes positive 5 over 2. Right, now smacking this and this into this formula will give me the gradient of the equation of our line. So y plus 3, I don't know what I put that in brackets, never mind, 5 over 2 x plus 2. x1, obviously it's minus x1, so 2 minus make a positive, and same for y. It doesn't say what form to give it, so I'm going to expand that side by 2 and expand the bracket by 5 to give me 2y plus 6 equals 5x plus 10. Let's make it 2y equals 5x plus 4, y equals 5 over 2x plus 2. I didn't know what form I need to leave in, but often y equals mx plus c is good if you've got a part B, because you might need to use this answer. Now, part B says to work out the coordinates of the circle, given that we know the y coordinate is minus 8. So C is something minus 8. Okay, well, I've got the equation of this line here. All I need to do is simply substitute y equals minus 8 into this equation and then solve it to find the x coordinates. That's quite straightforward. So if I make minus 8 equals 5 over 2x plus 2, take away 2, minus 10 equals 5 over 2x times 2 minus 20 is 5x, or x equals minus 4. So the centre of the circle is minus 4, minus 8. Okay, that's not quite it yet. It then asks us to find the equation of the circle. Okay, so nearly there. Well, I've got the centre of the circle, but I need to work out the radius, or the radius squared. So I can go from C to either of these 2 points, do it here, just draw that diagram again. So this is 3 minus 5, and this is minus 4 minus 8. So to work out radius, or radius squared, is going to be helpful for the formula. Just use a bit of basic Pythag. So to go from minus 4 to 3 is 7 across. To go from minus 8 to minus 5 is 3 up. So r squared is going to be 7 squared plus 3 squared, which is 49 plus 9, which is 58. So smacking them all into the formula, x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared, the general equation of a circle. The equation of our circle is going to be x plus 4 squared plus y plus 8 squared minus a minus b, 2 minus just make a positive, equals r squared, which is 58. Done. Okay, if you can now go exercise 6e.